The jury in the Karen Reed murder retrial is in its fourth day of deliberations amid some confusion about the jury form. Hopes of a verdict coming soon are rising after the jury sent in some questions, but those questions are also raising concerns about another hung jury. And now we're getting a look at the amended verdict sheet given to the jury after the judge answered those questions. Let's bring in ABC News investigative reporter Olivia Rubin along with civil attorney Tre Lovell for more. Olivia, the jury's been deliberating for just about 18 hours now. So what's the latest on this verdict slip and how it's been amended?
Well, the 18 hours, remember, they're creeping up to the time that they were at last time around in the first trial. That jury deliberated for 27 hours before that mistrial was ultimately declared. So we're only at 18 for today at about noon. So there's some ways to go. But you're right, they do have an amended verdict slip. And there has been so much debate about the verdict slip because remember, during the last trial, there was a mistrial, but the Karen Reed defense team later said that the jury was confused and that they actually had found her not guilty on two of the most serious charges, but it ended up in a mistrial for everything because of the verdict sheet. So they had moved for some differences this time. They were denied, but they did get these small changes, and it came after the jury had that question yesterday. Remember, it was about the manslaughter charge, saying if we find her not guilty of some of the lesser charges, how does that affect the greater charges? So they've added some instructions on that jury sheet after each of the lesser charges where it essentially says, if you've decided here, stop, sign the verdict sheet, don't go any further, trying to direct them a little bit through that new verdict sheet, as you can see right there on their screen, hoping to guide them a little bit. There is, however, seems to still be some confusion amongst the jury about how this all works. They sent a fourth question in yesterday, basically saying if we find her not guilty on two of the charges but can't decide on the third, does that mean we're a hung jury on everything? And the judge wouldn't answer that. She said it's theoretical for now, can't give you a response.
And that's essentially what happened last time, right? When they went back and spoke to the jury, they found out the jury had actually agreed on two of the three charges, but it was too late then to undeclare a mistrial, and that went all the way up to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, it's deja vu.
Tre, I'll bring it to you then. How critical is this? How can the language on a jury verdict slip make a difference in the ultimate verdict itself?
Absolutely critical. The most important thing, the biggest roadmap to a verdict are the jury instructions, because the jury has gone through a trial. They're trying to assimilate all this evidence, and they need to know what's legal, what's not legal, what's a crime, what's not a crime, what are the elements, because that's their job. And the instructions really need to lay that out. And if they're ambiguous at all, it can affect the verdict, as it did in the first trial. So as Olivia said, this is deja vu. You know, we are sensing a very similar verdict as to what happened before, but the instructions are essential and they've got to be made as simplistic as possible.
All right, so let's unpack this now, because you're saying these instructions need to be made as simplistic as possible, and we're looking there at the amended verdict sheet, which is supposed to be clearer. There are a lot of words on that page, Tre. You've seen a lot of these. Does this seem like an unusually confusing verdict slip to you, or is this standard?
It does seem a little bit confusing. And a lot of times, you know, you can have standard verdict slips and standard verdict instructions, which basically are approved by the Judiciary Council for each state. And sometimes if you have different facts or you need to vary it, you have special instructions, which break it down a little bit. I'm a little surprised why this wasn't broken down into a special instruction, because even as an attorney looking at it, I can see where juries can get confused. And this is just a recipe for what happened last time. I'm a little surprised the judge isn't taking more precaution, having known what happened last time, to make this even simpler.
All right, Olivia Rubin, Tre Lovell, thank you both.